Welcome to the Go Shout Love podcast. My name is Seth Carnell, and I am very proud to bring you one of my favorite episodes to date. Not to say that I don't value all of our conversations very much, but occasionally there is one due to its unique circumstances and dynamic personalities. It just seems to make an impression. We are talking with Katie and Jacque, two very good friends whose families are uniquely connected by their stories with kids on rare medical journeys. Jacque and her husband Josh are the parents to Miller, who is our featured child for this month. Miller has Leigh syndrome. Katie and her husband Tyler and their son Beckett was our featured family in February of 2019. Sadly, Beckett lost his battle with Leigh syndrome in April of 2019. These two women are forever bonded in a very beautiful way that so few can relate to. This episode is filled with stories about how they were connected on social media, how they met in person for the first time, which so happened to be at Beckett's funeral, and how they have grown and supported each other. Even a really cool story about a Mickey Mouse doll. For a while, we get to see these women process with each other, and this conversation appeared to allow them to open up to each other and discuss the delicacy around the emotional and painful aspects of their journeys. Talking to them feels like we were talking to friends who have known each other their entire lives. It is the shining example of how people can be and should be connected, and how that connection can provide exactly what people need to continue on with these difficult journeys. Relationship is important. With me in this interview is Josh Veach, one of our co-directors of Go Shout Love. Please take a second to rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you are listening on. And to get us started, here is Josh.
Okay, so we are with Katie and Jacque, and if you've listened to our last two episodes, you've heard from them separately, but we know Katie from Beckett's featured month in February of 2019, and then of course Jacque is this month's featured kiddo's mom, Miller's mom, for February 2020, and so they have a really cool story. You guys together have a really cool story, not only in that your kids have kind of these parallel or same medical journeys, but as moms, you've gotten to know each other, and it seems just in listening to you talk and share together that you have kind of filled a void in each other's lives, is kind of the feeling I get. So I don't know if that's accurate, but we're going to find out.
Yeah.
So one of you, tell us how you guys first got connected.
So we actually had a mutual friend that we didn't know about. Her name is Natalie, and she was Miller's NICU nurse. And then I knew her from college. Well, more her husband, but I still knew of her. And so I guess she saw Jackie's blog and realized, hey, I've seen Katie post about the same thing. Need to connect these two. And Jacque reached out first. She messaged me on Facebook, and I gave her my number right then. I look back at it now thinking, man, I really trusted this person, and I had no idea who she was, but I gave her my number, and so we continued to talk through texting, and the first time I ever met Jacque was actually at Beckett's funeral, which we kind of talked about in that last podcast, so it was really great to see her. I remember walking up, and I had never seen her in person, and I was like, this is Jacque. I remember crying really hard and hugging her, and I turned to Tyler. I was like, do you know who this is?
This is the Jacque.
Yeah.
How do you remember that moment?
Overwhelming. I drove to the funeral, and I hadn't talked to you because you'd had a little bit going on. And my intention was not to really let you know that I was even there. I just wanted to be there. And then as we were all being ushered out, you guys were getting hugs and condolences as we were leaving. And I thought, well, here we go. I mean, it's now or never. And honestly, in my mind, I was worried that you would think I was a creeper. Because we'd never met. I never met your son. But I felt like I know him. I know Beckett. And I love Beckett. And I needed to be there that day. So when we were walking out, I was petrified to meet you guys because I didn't know what to expect or what you would think, or I don't even know. So I walked up and you looked at me, and it was like you were just kind of ushering the next person. I mean, you had hugged probably 100 people. And you looked at me, and then you looked down, and then you looked back at me with these big eyes, and you were like, oh my gosh! And you hugged me, and we both were just shaking, crying. Just this release, this support, this... I don't even know how to describe it. It was amazing. And then when we finally pulled apart, you looked at Tyler and you said, do you know who this is? And just a minute ago when you introduced me, you said, this is Miller's mom. That's all I could say to Tyler. It's all I could get out because I had just met you and I already loved you. And she said, do you know who this is? And Tyler said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, he was very polite. And I said, I'm Miller's mom. And he was like, oh my gosh. And he embraced me in a huge hug. And I felt like I was taking up all of the time. I felt so terrible because y'all were hugging me and loving on me. And all I wanted to do was to be there to support you guys. And we had plans prior to Beckett passing to meet up. We were going to come visit. And Tyler said, we still want you to come. We still want you guys to come visit us. And in that moment, all I could say was, absolutely, anything you guys want. And I remember your parents being right next to y'all and greeting people, and I didn't have anything left. And I feel like that is such a selfish emotion in that moment because you guys were literally burying your child that day. But I couldn't meet your parents that day. I didn't have anything left. I was overwhelmed with you and how strong you were. You stood up by yourself in the middle of the celebration of Beckett's life. And I just thought, what a badass. Like, this is probably maybe one of the worst days of your entire life. And you're standing and showing your faith and showing that you love your little boy more than anything else. So, you're stuck with me now.
Which is totally fine with me.
So just for context, before that moment, are we talking like you guys have been texting and calling on the phone like every day, or like you talked a couple times?
We'd never talked on the phone.
No, we still don't really. Well, now we FaceTime.
Yeah, because of Miller.
But no, it's just texting.
September to April.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, it wasn't every day, but it was often. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like randomly. Yeah. But we kind of kept up. Like, I remember when it was Go Shot Love month of February for Beckett, and he was in the hospital that month, Miller had sent Beckett a little gift and stuff. And so, I mean, we had talked to each other and knew definitely each other's journeys, but we hadn't gone to the extent of meeting each other and kind of knowing each other more personally. And so the first time we all hung out, we went to the lake and met Jackie, Josh, and Miller. And it was exactly a month after Beckett had passed. And, you know, I kind of talked about this earlier as well. And they just really showed us grace and treated us like normal people. And we had a great weekend. And it wasn't like it had to be this sad, somber time of hanging out. And we got to know Miller, and it ended up being, okay, when's the next time we're going to hang out? But we joke now thinking, we are crazy. We didn't know each other, and we were like, okay, we're going to go hang out for a whole weekend in a house.
Yeah, if this were like online dating type of thing, you guys have you're breaking major rules.
Oh, yeah. We're super easy if that's the case. Like, it's not good.
What not to do.
Yes, that would be us.
Oh man.
But yeah, so it was nice, and you know, we've hung out a couple more times. They've come to our house, and then we've gone to my parents' land and
gone camping.
Yep, gone camping and went to Miller's birthday party, his 3rd birthday, which was amazing to witness and see all the people that loved Miller and Jackie and Josh. And then now we're here to help celebrate Miller and their family. So
I also have to add, though, y'all got off late on Friday, and so you didn't get to meet us for dinner where we had planned. And the owner of the restaurant we went to eat at is a collector of Roadrunners.
Huh.
I
So
mean,
if you're listening and you haven't gotten that, if that reference doesn't connect, you have to listen to Tyler and Katie's episode.
And you guys have
There have been a lot of
a
Roadrunners.
shirt. Don't y'all have that shirt that has the Roadrunner? The
yeah,
brand?
so some of our best friends had their own embroidery shop for a while, and their logo was a Roadrunner. So we have like Game Guard hunting shirts with either orange or red Roadrunners on them. We have hats with Roadrunners on them. Just all of these crazy connections that we have. But I remember we showed up to the restaurant and I just started crying. And people we were with were like, what is wrong with her? Because I saw Roadrunners everywhere. So I went and like just got up from the table and went and talked to the owner. And I was like, whose are these? And he said, I've collected them since I was a kid. His office was full of them. And I think he said he had over 400 Roadrunners throughout the restaurant, at his house. And that was where we had chosen to eat dinner in this tiny, tiny town of Burnett, Texas. I mean, there's probably 10 restaurants total.
Yep.
And that's the one we chose. And it's just, God's been all over this whole relationship. Even if that's the only thing that the blog has done,
Yeah.
check. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So since that time, you guys have actually gone and stayed at Katie's house. Is that right? Katie and Tyler's house. Mm-hmm. What was that like, having them over at your place?
It was great. I mean, to be honest, I feel like I've known them forever, even though we have only hung out a handful of times.
You guys act like you've known each other forever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she was like a childhood friend, and I know her whole life and her whole story. And
You probably do.
I mean, in a way, we're very similar.
Look at our outfits right now.
You are identical.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
both wearing
look
jeans,
similar.
our Live to Feel Beckett shirts, and like a gray shirt cardigan
You're only
thing
missing
over.
flower ear. No, never mind.
You both have earrings, but they're not the same. But yeah, legit, it's creepy.
My mom even thinks we look like, and we have very similar mannerisms and ways we talk, and she's very similar to my husband. She can like put up with him, so that's one good thing.
Or call him out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Just what was it like to be at Tyler and Katie's?
It was a very quick trip, actually, because they
Yeah.
had to go to a conference for work. So it was just one night, but it was a good time. Miller got to nap in Beckett's room and play with his toys, and that is the only child that has been allowed in his room since he passed. So, I mean, if that doesn't say anything, Miller has a very special place in our heart. So
Yeah. Has that been difficult to go into that relationship with Miller? Like, how was that in the very first time? Like,
oh, he felt like Beckett, and I've said that to Jackie before. It's nice to feel Miller and love on him and go through all of his accomplishments together and be his cheerleader, because that's what I was for Beckett.
Absolutely.
And now I get to help another kiddo and love on him and give him everything that I can, because he definitely deserves it. We were just telling Jackie this last night. When we first met them back in May, officially, like, I guess I met Jackie before, but meeting the whole family, Miller and Josh and everyone, Miller was not doing certain things. He wasn't sitting up on his own. He was kind of more rolling around on the floor. And as our friendship has progressed, we've definitely seen him grow, which is really encouraging, because that's something we never saw Beckett do. And so it's exciting to see him where now he can walk super well, basically run in a gait trainer. He can sit up. He feeds himself really well. It's just really, that's definitely a good thing for me to see positive coming out of it.
It's always been a fear of mine, though, I will say, to not pour salt in the wound. I don't ever want that to be something that hurts you. Me sharing Miller's accomplishments or my hard days, I never want to hurt you. And you've told me time and time again, I don't think that way. I don't think that way, which is so selfless. I don't understand how you are that way. You're amazing. But I remember I was actually telling my mother-in-law I didn't know how to interact the first time we met. I was very anxious about it when we met at the lake. And I remember telling her, it's not my job to predict how Katie's going to react. We're going to be who we are, and we love them for who they are. And I want very much for you to tell me when you've had enough, or when you need a break, or you want more of Miller, or whatever it is. I didn't want to set that tone that we could decide those things for you. And I think that was a lot of my anxiety, was trying to avoid any hurt that you might feel by dictating my actions differently. And that was not the way to go about it.
Yeah. I mean, she did awesome. Like I've said, it felt nice, and they handled it all really well. Yeah.
But I can see where you're coming from. The idea that there's a certain level of sensitivity that you're trying to recognize the pain that this new friend has gone through, and to make sure that because your stories are at a different place and they're a little bit different, that something that's an accomplishment doesn't serve as a reminder of what's not for someone else and become a source of pain. And I think the fact that you think that way is what makes this relationship so powerful, is that you know what each other have gone through and are going through to some degree. And so you're driven by that thought of making sure that how you respond is consistent with how you would want to be treated
Absolutely.
in the context of your relationship.
Absolutely.
Outside of your family and friends who are as close as family, there are likely few things that you put blood, sweat, and tears into like your home. So when it comes to finding someone to work on your house, you need folks that you can trust. Battles Home Improvement has proudly been serving the Abilene community for more than 60 years, transforming bathrooms, kitchens, exteriors, and more into beautiful and functional living spaces for your family. So whether it's a minor home improvement or time to turn your house into the house of your dreams with a major remodel, you know who's ready to tackle the project. Head over to aremarkablehome.com for more information and learn about the great team of Battles Home Improvement. Again, that's aremarkablehome.com, and we are grateful to have Battles Home Improvement as our lead sponsor for February, and to have them shouting love for Miller with us all month long. Now, back to our chat.
What has Katie taught you?
Oh, Lord. Josh and I talk often about how strong she is. You are so loyal and so strong, and you put yourself on the back burner for the benefit of Beckett and for your family. And I know you're struggling a lot with that now, because you're trying to find what that looks like now. And I think that you have every right to get there. But something that the preacher mentioned in Beckett's celebration was heaven was going to feel real familiar to him because of how loved he was here on earth. And so I try really hard to mimic that. I try really hard to love Miller as much as she loved Beckett, because it was a beautiful relationship. And Beckett is so lucky to have you as a mama. I need a Kleenex now too.
I mean, I can reciprocate that. Even last night we went to a Christmas light show, and there was this other little child in a wheelchair, and Jackie went up and was like, "I'm so glad you're here. You know, my name's Jackie," and she reached out to shake this little girl's hand, and she was just so overwhelmed with joy in front of this little girl. And I remember turning to her husband, Josh, and I said, "Man, your wife is amazing." And I mean, she was just so overwhelmed with joy that it's like, she didn't even know these people. And she just walked up and was like, "I'm so glad you're here." And it's definitely amazing to watch her as she is going through the journey that we did go through. and how, I mean, she is one goofy lady. She has definitely taught me to just let go a little bit, be a little silly, because she does not care what people think. And as long as it makes Miller giggle and smile, that's the goal. So,
Miller or strangers. Apparently.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, she is very lovable and very personable, giving. I mean, the list could go on.
And goofy.
And goofy.
I'll add that
very
one to it.
sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Jackie, the story that Katie just shared about you interacting with the little gal in the wheelchair, where does that come from for you? Like that passion for people and for life, where does that come from?
I don't know that I would have done it before Miller. Honestly, I think it's Miller. I want everyone to feel included. I want everyone to feel welcome. Not isolated because they are different. And not in the cliche, like everybody's the same. No, they're very different, and for a dang good reason. Miller is very different from any other kid that was there last night. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, Miller is even very, I mean, he's very different from Beckett.
But I want both the woman in the wheelchair and the caretaker to feel seen and loved and acknowledged, because those are things that I think it's very easy for other people around town. They say, oh, they'll smile at Miller, but they don't engage him. You know, they don't, hey, bud, how are you? We were at the grocery store, Miller and I, probably a month or two ago. It was right before his birthday. And a gentleman was standing in front of us, and he saw Miller. Miller was walking through the grocery store because he is 3 and independent. Let me put some extra emphasis on that.
He's a 3 teen. That's what our daycare calls
lordy,
it.
he was walking around getting into everything, and which is a typical toddler, and I want that for him. It makes my grocery store runs take 3 times as long, but I want him to have that independence. So we were checking out, and this gentleman, I will never forget this. He got down on his knee, was eye to eye with Miller, and he was like, hey, bud, how are you? And he shook his hand and was talking to him. Even though Miller doesn't reciprocate any words, he sees him. He knows that he's being acknowledged and that he is respected and loved on in that way. And I want to be that to people. I want, whether you have a disability or not, I want you to feel seen and respected and loved on. And I think life's too short to not treat people that way.
That's another lesson I've learned just being a part of Go Shout Love. I don't think I would have gotten out of my comfort zone, but hearing people share these stories, like, I just want people to come up and talk to me. I want that inclusion. Like, I want my kid to feel that. And so, like, 2 years ago, probably in the store, I would not have. And I'm terrified of what my sons do around those kids. But now, like, just stepping forward and getting down on that level and talking to them, you can just almost feel the inclusion.
Absolutely.
And I think for a lot of people, the not doing it, it's not out of a bad place.
No, of course.
It's typically more out of I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
And so we choose to do nothing.
Right.
And in doing so, we accidentally create that isolation instead of recognizing just the power of engagement and the power of sharing a few words or saying something encouraging to a mom or dad in that moment. And that, I'm with you. That's
a lot of the time
an eye opener for me, because my natural tendency is to give people space and think that I'm doing the right thing by that.
You're
and
very
accidentally
right.
creating isolation.
The lack of inclusion is not always from a place of malice. It's from a place of fear.
Yeah.
I would think most often it's not out of malice.
Yeah.
I think it's very much that people are stepping out of their comfort zone, and they'd just rather not because they don't know what to do or say. But we're
That's
different.
definitely another positive about Jackie is her action. I was just sitting here thinking about her, listening to this story, and she's one of the biggest action people, biggest cheerleader. You just do it. You never ask.
I'm a little aggressive.
No, she's perfect.
Unfortunately, you can't see the expression that came with that statement.
She also has comedic timing.
Yes,
Yep.
she does.
It's a little aggressive. It's fine.
It's perfect.
It's necessary.
Yep.
And it's found a home. It's right here with Katie.
Yep.
that relationship. It's clear that the two of you together are
Two peas in a pod.
You're a mess.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
And this is all divine. I truly think God did all of this on purpose, giving me Jackie and Miller and Josh, because even Tyler has really benefited from having Josh as someone that he can talk to, because most men are not going to open up and just share about their feelings, but at least someone that's similar and going through similar things, it's a lot easier to be like, yeah, man, this really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. They were, when we went to the lake that first weekend, I remember they went fishing down at the dock together, and it was just them two. I mean, which kind of opened us up to have some time just to ourselves too. With Mill being, I don't know what he was doing, but it's a beautiful thing in a terrible situation. Mm-hmm. It's the best that it could have been, that it could be, given what we are facing and have faced. Oh, we were talking last night about Beckett gets to see Jesus' birthday party.
Yeah.
And how jealous we are of that. And how awesome he's going to have the best time.
Yeah. As we were walking through the Christmas lights, because Beckett loved lights. I mean, that was like his thing. And so you're like, man, and Jackie said, I can't imagine all the lights up there, you know, and then
with the creator of light.
Yes, right? And so we were just like, man, that birthday party is going to be awesome. You know, he's going to have a blast. But
we miss him.
We do, yeah. And I would have loved to have seen Miller play with him because, you know, when we talked for so many months, we had both envisioned what it would be like for them to meet. So it's hard not being able to get to see that.
But I think Miller already knows Beckett.
Oh yeah, because he loves me like super hard.
Mm-hmm. When we were at the lake, it was Saturday morning, and you were sitting with Miller outside on the back porch. And Beckett is a name we use around here all the time. We talk about Beckett all the time. We prayed for Beckett. So Miller knows that name. He knows Beckett. And when you were sitting outside holding him, you said something about Beckett. And Miller's nonverbal, mind you, but he said yes, 3 times?
Yes, I remember that now. I can't remember what I had said.
You asked him something about...
Did you dream about Beckett last night? That was it. Because it was...
And he said, yeah. It was 3 questions in a row, and he said the same sound that sounded like yes or yeah over and over again, and that is not something that Miller can do. I mean, he did it, but it's not a consistent skill of his. So I just know that God's all over this and that Miller and Beckett do know each other.
Because we envisioned that they would even have like this language that was between the two of them and be all rambunctious around each other. But yeah, so there are hard times, but it's good to go through them with Jackie and Miller and Josh.
Jackie, you have a lot of Mickeys and Minnies in this house.
A few.
And Miller has an awesome playroom that has a handful of Mickeys, 1 or 12.
I think I'm looking at 9 right now.
There's some Mickeys.
Never mind the book on the table.
But in Miller's bedroom, there's also a Mickey.
There is a Mickey that we do not play with. It is a very special Mickey. It's Beckett's Mickey. So Beckett had the opportunity to go to Disney World, and he got a Mickey Mouse when he was there from his Go Shout Love. The benefits he received from that. And when we went to Katie and Tyler's house and we were playing in Beckett's room, Katie knew how much Miller was into Mickey and gifted Miller a Mickey that was Beckett's. And that Mickey sits in Miller's room day and night and watches over Mill. And it's our special Mickey. It was our first one.
It still even has the tag on it.
Because that's how Beckett left it.
Yep.
So that's how we're leaving it.
It was at Miller's birthday party. So
we took him with us.
What does it feel like to have this other mom put that level of trust or care into your son's life? in that gift? Because I'm just thinking that has to be a really meaningful thing for Katie. And so to receive that, what does that mean to you?
Well, I will say smells are a big deal. We realized how weird we are also about, she would pull things out that smelled like Beckett whenever I was there.
We were both sniffing very
just
badly.
trying to get his smell. And it's such a mom thing. But for her to give us something that smelled like Beckett in a time when you are mourning, it makes me want to be a better person. I can't even, like, how the heck did you do that? You gave Miller a Mickey that was your son's. And I don't know. It's awesome. It's just incredibly selfless. You are so loving. And it was very evident that Miller felt very at home with you guys the first time that he met you. So having a piece of you guys and Beckett here in our house is more than I could ask for.
Such a powerful way to end that conversation. Incredibly impactful and meaningful. Shouters, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed getting to put it together. We love meeting these families and getting to help them share their stories. It is our hope that you, by listening, can even in small ways feel a part of their journeys and a part of the Go Shout Love family. If you want to join and shout love for families every month, go to our website, goshout.love, and start a subscription. Use the discount code podcast at checkout for $5 off your first month. There are also incredible hoodies, mugs, and other items that will go in helping to support these families as we continue to shout love for these kiddos. We'd love it if you would share, rate, and review this podcast so it can continue to bless as many people as possible. Then, if you need some direction on what to do next, I'd simply say, go shout love.